Your Fitness Business Podcast Snapshot. Our special guest, Sophie Lawler, shares an overview of the Total Fitness People strategy and specifically their personal training leadership program. Plus, we discuss how they evaluate the success of professional development initiatives. All of that and more coming up in today's show. You're listening to the industry's leading fitness business podcast for owners and managers. We'd like to thank this month's premier podcast partner, Precor. Through experience design, Precor delivers best-in-class products, top-ranked service, unparalleled expertise, and resources needed to help facility operators win. For more information, go to precor.com. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me. I am really excited because I have a sensational show coming your way over the next 30 minutes. As you've just heard, my special guest for today is Sophie Lawler, and she's joining us all the way from the UK. Sophie is the CEO of Total Fitness and one of the youngest CEOs in our industry. With 20 years fitness experience, she has previously transformed fitness first, overseeing strategic growth and the development of new products and propositions in the UK and globally. As you're going to hear today, Sophie is incredibly passionate about the business, the team, and she has created a unique leadership culture, which we're going to be speaking about during her interview today. All of that is coming your way in under 60 seconds time. But first, here's a message from our friends at Precor. Precor understands that experience matters when it comes to selecting the right fitness supplier for your facility. That's why they're celebrating their proven expertise in experience-driven design, the industry's highest resale value backed by top-tier US manufacturing, and the industry's highest-rated customer support team. Find out how Precor can provide you the total solution approach to fit your needs. Go to precor.com/total-solutions. On Thursday, March the 19th, 2020, you'll have the opportunity to join friends and colleagues at the annual FBP Family Meetup at URSA 2020. Starting from the Marriott Marquis San Diego Marina at 6:30 a.m., we walk and we talk for 45 minutes, sharing experience, ideas, and stories. Everyone from the FBP family is invited, and we would love for you to join us on the day. For full details, listen in after the main interview. Enjoy this week's interview with my special guest, Sophie Lawler. Sophie, welcome along and thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So,
pleasure.
Can you start us off today by sharing a bit of an overview about the Total Fitness People strategy?
Oh, crikey, there's so much I could say about people strategy. It's difficult to give just a high-level overview. But let me give you a little bit of background about what I found when I arrived at Total Fitness, if that's okay. It'll help you understand the context.
Please do.
So, Total Fitness is a brilliant business. It's a business I used to work for 20 years ago when I was a membership consultant, when I was quite a bit younger than I am now. And I had an opportunity to come back and look at the business with a view to taking a C-suite role. And what I found was, facilities that were pretty good, but in tough locations, in a difficult strategic position. And I thought, well, that's all pretty tough. That's not stuff that we can necessarily control. I can't move the clubs out of their locations, and I can't move their strategic position overnight. But the reason I wanted to take the job, and I think I said in my Precor quickfire questions, why do I do what I do? And the answer was because I should. Mm-hmm. The reason why I wanted to take the job, or the reason why I thought I should do this, was because I could see quite a lot of embedded performance potential in the business, just in the people. I did a little bit of mystery shopping, and I could see that the people were there, so they were opening and closing the clubs. So that's a good start. And they were doing stuff. But they seemed to be doing it by rote, sort of by process, with little enjoyment and little engagement, which sort of, it really sort of said to me that I don't think these people know why they're doing what they're doing. if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you can't be remotely intrinsically motivated to do that thing, and you can't remotely take any ownership over the outcome. And I thought, well, that looks like an engagement problem then. So if I have got an engagement problem with this particular business, then it means that if we can unlock that, then there's loads of performance potential to unlock. And so that's when I started to think, okay, this is going to be people powered, and people strategy is going to be exceptionally important. So that sort of gave me the hunch, if you like, when I arrived. Mm-hmm. I know the fitness industry really well. So then when I did arrive, all of the sort of strategic stuff, the stuff that you can't change overnight, that all bore true. You know, they're big businesses, they're over leveraged, they're massive clubs, the market's difficult, all that stuff I found to be true. But the power and this hunch I had about the embedded performance potential, that came true in spades. And as I started to get under the bonnet of the business and do a little bit of asking and then a lot of listening around about the people, literally like 3 weeks in, Chantal, I was like, there's dynamite here. Now, regardless of the fact that it's a difficult business, there's actually dynamite here. I've just got to spark a fuse. And so what we came up with, whenever I'm sort of leading a business, I'll try and come up with no more than 5 strategic objectives for a business, no more than 5. And they've got to be really, really easy one-liners for people to understand. But number 1 strategic objective was always going to be connect people better to the business. So a sense of purpose and connection, and keep them for longer. Connect them better to the business and keep them for longer. And if I can just do that, then by golly, is this market going to have a fight on its hands? And from there, the people strategy was born. I'm just going to connect them and I'm going to keep them for longer.
Amazing. I love the simplicity of that top line of that first strategy that you just talked about. And I just want to take a step backwards, and not everyone might have heard you and I last week talk about the fact that one of your book recommendations was Simon Sinek, Start With Why, and that we had Peter Docker on the show. But you mentioned just now that when you initially looked at the business, you found that, you know, people were kind of just working on rote. There was not necessarily that connection as to why they were doing what they were doing. At what point in this process did you go about identifying the why for the business and then connecting the employees with that motivation?
Well, I started it immediately because I started just by listening, asking people, why are you doing it that way? And why do you do it at all? And do you understand why we're here? And do you understand what the business stands for? And just quite simply in the answers to that starts the process of thinking anyway. So whenever you ask a question, you start a process of thinking whatever. So even though I was just asking questions, I was still starting the process of getting the business to think about, well, what am I doing? And why am I doing it? And they're awkward questions to answer when you've got no purpose anyway. And then I did some more formal listening. So I did face-to-face listening, just sort of out and about in club labs. And then I did some more formal listening, so engagement surveys. And I brought in a third party to help me do even more face-to-face listening, but just not the management team. So it felt a little bit safer to ask lots of questions about purpose and what have you. Now, I had a benefit, a strategic benefit, in that I kind of remember and know what the purpose of this business is. I can remember why it was set up because I used to sell memberships for it in the late 90s, early noughties. And, you know, the business was set up just to dominate the northeast and northwest of the UK.
Appreciate your honesty.
Area. But it was, you know, these are huge clubs, and they were literally built to take on a very lazy middle market. So what they did is they arrived on the scene and they said to the very lazy middle market, all right, you've got a swimming pool that's, you know, it's pretty, but it's round and it's only got 2 lanes in it. Tell you what, every site of mine is going to have 3 swimming pools on it. I'll take your treadmills and I'll raise you a running track. I will take your 100 pieces of kit and I'm going to put 300 pieces of kit in the club. So it literally just opened these monstrous clubs and just stole market share. But it did have a purpose. It really did have a purpose, but the business forgot about it. And when the industry as a whole went through a tough time, when the budget operators arrived in the UK, the business went through a turbulent time because a lot of its market share got stolen. Because it didn't keep its purpose at the heart of what it did, it just lost its way. So when I could hear loud and clear from the business, when I arrived back last year, when I could hear loud and clear from the business that it had forgotten its purpose, all I had to do is find a way of showing the business that it had lost its purpose and re-articulate it to the business. And the way in which I re-articulated it to the business was using Simon Sinek's framework. It's the interesting bit actually about this particular business is not why it exists. It's actually the how bit, how it brings that very noble purpose. We believe that everybody is better when they're fitter, and we believe that fitness is not one dimensional. So we take a 360 approach to fitness. That's our why. The interesting bit is actually the how bit, how we bring it to life. Do we choose to bring it to life through sort of building investment signatures, or do we choose to bring it to life through our people? And that was almost the start, or that was the spark of the fuse, if you like. So I gathered the business about 3 or 4 months in. I gathered the business together for a leadership summit, and I gave them some difficult messages. This is the actual state of the business. Here's why we're in this particular tricky spot. It's because we lost our why. Here is our why, and here's how we bring it to life. We bring it to life firstly through our people. We're not going to get any investment until we bring it to life through our people. And how you bring a purpose to life through your people is through behavior. So here's our purpose and here's our values. And we've done an awful lot of workshopping in the background on values. What are the values of our behavior? And that was it. That was the moment at which we started to bring the purpose to life, and that was back end of November last year, nearly a year ago.
Sophie, I'm loving this story.
There's a bit of a story.
I'm loving hearing this story. It's just fascinating because I think it's something rather that many of our leaders and managers can probably relate to, and you know, coming into a business and really trying to connect the pieces and reinvigorate the team. And I read an article that you did in Health Club Management Magazine not that long ago, and in that you're talking about the people strategy, but in particular you talked about the personal leadership program, which I believe is part of that overarching strategy. And I'd love to dive into that in a little bit more detail. Can you tell us about that personal leadership program?
Yeah, of course. Well, it's almost like, if you imagine it in building blocks, right? So the foundational block is your purpose. Why are you even here? What's your purpose? Exceptionally important for our millennial and Generation Z workforces, actually. And then the secondary bit is, well, how do I bring that purpose to life through my behavior? So that's values. And then the third bit is, well, how do we lead? What's our leadership philosophy? And it's perfectly aligned to our behavioural values, actually, the way we do leadership philosophy. And in thinking about, so I'd thought about purpose, I'd thought about values, and in parallel I was thinking about, well, what's our leadership philosophy? I have quite a distinct leadership philosophy that comes along with me, but I didn't walk into this business with a leadership program at all. But I did walk into the business thinking, I think my leadership style is suited here. So we're a good fit, me and Total Fitness. And I was looking for a chairman, actually. And I went and met this fabulous chairman candidate, a chap called Paul Stobart. And we were sitting in a coffee shop in Newcastle, which is a city in the northeast, which is beautiful but very cold. And I was sitting having a coffee with Paul. And he said to me, do you know what, Sophie, even if I am not successful in your chairman's search, you really must, from what you've told me about Total Fitness's problems, the cultural problems that we have, which we haven't even touched on, so I'm not going to go there for now because they were pretty big. you've got to go and sit down with a great peer of mine, a lady called Penny Ferguson. She runs a personal leadership program, which will address potentially a lot of the challenges that what you've got, where you need to rebalance the organizational focus. So, interesting. And I was at the time looking around for leadership programs that would suit my leadership philosophy. And I went and sat with Penny and started talking to her. And then so I'd sort of let her go and was asking her loads of questions. I was like, oh my days, the principles of this leadership program, they sound so aligned with me, with my business and our values. This is ridiculous. It was so fateful, I can't tell you. And so Penny was like, she's an amazing lady, little pocket rocket, just super inspirational. She said, Sophie, how about this? We'll put you and your leadership team through our personal leadership program. Come and give it a whirl. See what an impact it has on you and your own leadership team. It'll also be great it'll be a great team exercise for you, because you really come together as a team over these 3 days. So, yeah, all right then. So we went and were trained by one of Penny's team. So the company's called The Living Leader, and we went and did one of their programs. So it was just us, me and my 10 senior leadership team members. And we did this program. It was mind-blowing. It was absolutely stonking. It was so good. And that we took the general managers through the program as well, and a couple of the regional managers. And that teamed with our leadership summit, which launched our purpose and our values this time last year. It was literally like rocket fuel. And we came out of the block so hard in January. It was just ridiculous. And we've been climbing ever since. And so the power of the purpose, the values, and then the leadership philosophy jammed on top of it made me think, oh, crikey, I've got to take this further through the business, because if you've got a business in a turnaround, it doesn't need sort of more controlled leadership. It actually needs far more leadership from everybody, because there's so much to be done, right? That you can't have your leadership team doing it all. You need more and more and more people making decisions in a similar way. So that comes down to values and leadership philosophy. And if you've got those living and breathing everywhere, then everybody can lead, right? So the Living Leader do this brilliant thing where if they believe you can, they will put you on a certified master training program, and you can become one of their master trainers. So me and one of the regional managers, the regional operational managers, went on one of their master trainer programs in March. Really intensive 2 weeks. It takes 2 weeks of very intense training to learn how to deliver this program. And then me and my counterpart, my fellow regional manager, we've been delivering the program internally since then.
Wow.
And that's how we've been bringing it to life.
So, right. So you participated in the training yourself, and now you're rolling it out to the rest of the team. So what I'd like to do, Sophie, is just to understand a few of, I guess, the more intricate details of the program to set the scene for our listeners out there that are interested in perhaps doing something similar for their team. So when you are taking your employees through this, how long is it taking for them to do the course with you leading it?
So 3 days delivered over a 2 and a 1. So you do 2 days with an overnight, and then you go away for 3 or 4 weeks, no more than 4 weeks, and you come back and do the third day. So it's sort of 2 days together, and then a consolidation day a few weeks down the line. You stay in your same team, so that it's nice and consistent, and it's a circle of sort of openness and confidentiality. We share an awful lot, so you keep the same people together, and they sort of come out as a little sort of set of delegates, graduates, if you like, on their own. And yeah, that's it. We do it off-site, somewhere residential, somewhere where we can sit in comfy chairs all day and look at the sky if we need to. And it's just a joyful experience. It's done in their work time. They take 3 days out. And that's the logistics.
And so in between the first couple of days that you do and then the follow-up day, would I assume that they've got sort of homework to do, or do they apply what they've learned into their work environments during that time?
The homework is just is every day, because when you're practicing new behaviors and you're generating new awareness, if you like, and you're trying to change your behavior, it's hard work and it's every day in every interaction. And that's probably one of the biggest realizations on day one of this program. This whole program addresses leadership in the context of the person, not in the context of the business. So when I'm introducing the program on day one, I make it very clear that this is not a program about total fitness. We may use total fitness examples just to help us illustrate some points, and you might use some total fitness examples to share your stories, but it's got nothing to do with total fitness. It's about you, because you're not a leader at work and then you go home and you're somebody entirely different. Leadership isn't like a cape that you put on when you walk through the office door. It's about you as a whole person. So the homework that they take is about choosing to change their whole selves. So the homework is it's kind of like behavioral practice.
Mm.
There are some things that we definitely ask them to do, but it's minimal, very minimal, because in terms of sort of actual physical work, because it's behavior change and it's actually really hard work. And they come back on day 3. So how's it been? And we do a massive reflection session, and we're very clear about the challenges. But what we find is that the positive impact massively outweighs the challenges by day 3.
So, Sophie, what is in my mind at the moment is I want to peer just a little bit deeper into that personal leadership program. I'd love you to just give us a little behind the curtains look at maybe some of the elements, some of the topics that you focus on during that program. Can you give us that little insight?
Yeah, sure I can. I mean, it is a mixture of theories, frameworks, personal stories. So the PLP, the Personal Leadership Program that I deliver, is very personal to me, actually. So there's a lot of my authenticity in there, if you like. So that kind of stuff can't really get into the detail, but on the sort of high level principles, yeah, I absolutely can. So let me see if I can freestyle this through. So the key bits that our delegates go away understanding is, first of all, the difference between management and leadership. One's very much about control and is very effective, absolutely, but not necessarily sustainable. And the other one is more about freedom and inspiring other people to do it for themselves. So they come away with a real understanding of the different approaches and when the right approach is situationally appropriate. They also come away with an understanding that personal leadership is a choice and it applies in every single situation. So that's this point about, it's the whole person in work and outside of work. It's not just about work. So they come away with a real clear understanding of what that is. And then they come away with a really clear understanding that it's all choice. So taking responsibility for your life and your role as a leader is very much about choice. You have to become aware of stuff that's limiting you and holding you back, but then it's very much about choice. So there's a whole piece about responsibility and choice. And that's probably one of the biggest learnings. We talk an awful lot about sort of the softer skills and the really sort of power skills of leadership, which are communicating behavior and how to create an empowered environment by listening properly, giving appreciation properly, and asking questions properly. You can only listen if you ask great questions. With a great question, you're going to get a great answer that's really insightful that you can listen to. And we sort of weave that in with a number of sort of different theories and great examples and stories. And we do a lot of sharing and a lot of sort of applicable exercises. But they're sort of the key sort of themes, if you like.
Well, thank you for taking us.
Is that helpful?
It is very helpful. It gives us a kind of closer view into what happens in the personal leadership program. So I guess, Sophie, if we were to kind of wind back and have a look at all of the things that you have done with the business and that people strategy that you shared earlier, give us a bit of a broad overview on how you've been evaluating the success of these changes in the business and that all of the professional development initiatives that you have implemented with your team.
Well, I mean, there's the softer ways of looking at it. I have some great stories of people that have really taken responsibility for their lives and their journeys, and they're much happier for it. And then there's the crunchier stuff, right? How you'd really measure the success of that people strategy. I mean, number one, from a very, very high level, it's been a rip-roaring success because you can't drive top-line growth. When I say top-line growth, it's a fitness industry, so we're talking about membership and revenue, right? And we've grown our membership base by 10,000 members now year to date, so that's like having 2 more clubs. We've grown it by like 12%. Wow. 12% growth, and we haven't done it through investment. Mm-hmm. We've only done it through people. So that's sort of like your highest level measure of success, but it's not particularly sort of granular. So let me talk to you about sort of the more granular metrics. So I have this strategic objective of connect people better to the business and keep them for longer. So connecting them better to the business. So we measure this with our employee engagement survey. And we ask a lot of questions about understanding of purpose. Do you understand how your role contributes to that purpose? Do you feel like your manager cares about you? All of that stuff that really connects people to the business. And some of the really powerful metrics in there, like, do I know what the purpose is? 9.7 people out of 10 do. And do I understand how my role contributes to that purpose? 9 out of 10 people do. Sounds like rocket fuel, right? So that tells me that people are much better connected to the business than they were. So that's sort of KPI number 1 of that strategic objective: connect people better to the business and keep them for longer. Tick, tick, right? And then keep them for longer. So I measure that using two things. What's my level of opening and closing vacancies in the month? Number 1, and how many people are working for our business that have only been enrolled for less than 12 months? And when they've been enrolled for less than 12 months, it tells me that they're probably not 100% effective in role, which is really important. You've got to be able to do more than just open and close the doors. So in terms of my vacancies, so this month when we looked at it as a board, when I arrived, on average, we had 50 vacancies, 50, open at the end of every single month. Last month we closed it with 11 vacancies. Wow. So I've dropped my vacancy level by like 80%, right? So that's massive. And then keeping them for longer. The proportion of my workforce that had been enrolled for less than 12 months, so they were newbies to the business, the proportion of people in club operations land, that had been in the business for less than 12 months when I arrived was about 55%. So more than half of my workforce was less than 12 months old. You just can't run a business like that. It's just dropped below 40% now. So 37% of my business has been enrolled for less than 12 months. Now that particular metric moves very slowly, but we've managed to nudge it down by nearly 20% in a year, which is phenomenal, because we haven't just been keeping people. We've been on a journey of recalibration, right? So this journey is not for everybody. So of course we have still been churning people, but in the right way, and we've still managed to bring that down. So that's how I've been measuring my retention, my number of vacancies that I'm carrying each month, because holding vacancies creates a lot of inefficiency. And how mature are my workforce? How many of them have been enrolled for more than 12 months and how many have been enrolled for less than 12 months?
Well, congratulations, Sophie, because there's some incredible figures that you've just shared with us. And it's been so interesting having a chat about, the people strategy and everything that you've gone through with the business in a short period of time effectively, and just getting some insights into the personal leadership program and the transition that you've gone through with the team. So we wrap up each of our shows with our Fit Inspiration. So for today, do you want to share with us 3 elements that you would recommend including in any staff training program?
We're about to hear this week's Fit Inspiration from Sophie, but first here's a message from our friends at Gym Sales. Gym Sales allows you to plan, implement and monitor a proactive sales strategy that's automated and uniform. You can give your sales team the tools they need to capture, nurture and convert new members, which means it's easier than ever before to grow your member base. Make sure you head over to gymsales.net to find out more information. Now back to Sophie, where she's going to share 3 elements to include in a staff training program.
Well, I guess staff training programs, they have to relate to leadership, right? So I guess I would give you my 3 principles of personal leadership for me. These are for me. Have courage and overstretch. Particularly as girls, we're taught not to have courage and overstretch. Number 1, always be authentically you. Because trying to be somebody else, which is something I also see a lot of girls do in business, trying to be somebody else is always going to end up in failure. And number 3, always own what you're doing. Take full ownership of what it is. Even when you get it wrong, people will respect you much more if you admit when you get it wrong. Take ownership of it, and then everybody will trust you.
Great advice to finish up on today, Sophie. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I know that you're incredibly busy. We're recording this at what is now 7:45 p.m. your time, and we're so grateful for you taking this time to share those insights with us. Congratulations on everything that you've done with the business, and thank you for sharing some background information and a bit of a look inside the personal leadership program. Thank you for joining us today.
No worries. It's an absolute pleasure. It's my favourite topic.
Here's a message from our podcast partner, Tribe Team Training. Are you interested in increasing your centre's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training. FVP family, we have an exciting competition running throughout November and December 2019. You could win a pair of Bose sunglasses with micro speakers integrated into the arms of the frames, meaning that you can listen to the Fitness Business Podcast without having to use headphones or earphones. They are super cool and you are going to look awesome. No matter where in the world you are, just subscribe to our incredible show notes and tell us in 50 words or less why you love the Fitness Business Podcast. Just go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/win for all the details.
Precore Quickfire 5.
This week's Precore Quickfire 5 guest is wellness entrepreneur Tony DeLead. Tony, I am absolutely thrilled and so grateful that you're joining us on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you, Chantel. I'm very happy to be here.
We're going to kick off with the Precore Quickfire 5. So tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
Well, currently why I have moved from fitness into wellness is because I feel like I want to finally go after the 80% who have not traditionally been fitness people, and I call them the forgotten generation, but I think they will embrace wellness.
And what's one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
I think always exploring, always talking, always being open to conversations, always knowing that the only thing constant in life is change.
Absolutely. And tell us, are there any apps, systems that you use to stay in control of your workload?
Well, being an old-fashioned and traditional person, I still use pen and paper diaries and paper notepads, and I do recycle my paper, but I am I am one of the forgotten generation of people who don't do tech that well.
Well, Tony, you might be surprised to hear that I would put it at about definitely over 50%, maybe 60% of the people I ask that question to answer pen and paper. So there you go. You're not,
good.
Not alone. You're not alone.
Oh, okay. I thought I was part of the ancient tribe, so not so ancient then.
People are back to pen and paper. So tell us, are there any books, podcasts or blogs that you would recommend to the listeners today?
Look, I don't for better or for worse, I haven't read a book in about a year. I don't think I've listened to more than 2 podcasts. What I do is read magazines, and I try to stay current with what's happening in our industry, whether it be through fitness, wellness, spa, various publications. So I find that, I like to stay up to speed with what's moving forward, because everything at the moment, it's changing rapidly.
Absolutely. And we're going to have to boost the Fitness Business podcast up to the top of your listening list, I think.
Yes.
So after this goes live, I think we're going to become your new favourite podcast.
Oh, good. Looking forward to it.
And look, just tell everyone briefly about the topic that we're going to be focusing on during our interview.
Well, essentially, it is broadly where fitness meets wellness and how various operators and facilities can approach wellness for various different age groups, and what is this large word called wellness or well-being?
Well, Tony, you know what? This is a topic that I think we're going to have a lot of interest from all of the FBP family, and one that you know inside and out. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this. Thank you for joining us today for the Pre-Call Quick Fire 5.
Thank you.
This week's Rewind Show is episode 237, Everything You Need to Know About Marketing, with special guest Mark Schaefer. During the interview, Mark talks about what it means to take a human-centered approach to your marketing, why the connection between your employees and customers is instrumental to your marketing strategy, and he shares an example of a well-known fitness brand that's leading the way when it comes to customer interaction. If you missed that episode, then go to today's show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and in the search field, type 237. You heard it at the start of the show, so here are the details that you've been waiting for. You're all invited to the FBP Family Meetup on Thursday, March the 19th, 2020 at 6:30 a.m. If you're not familiar with our Meetup walks, it is an active networking event. We walk and we talk for 45 minutes and return back to the main entrance of the Marriott Marquis San Diego Marina by 7:15 a.m. The meetup is free and it is the best way to start your day. We love to know who's coming along, so please jump over to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, go to the top of the page and click on the tab called Meetup. Then register your details for the Ursa Walk. If you need any more information, email me directly at chantal@fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's show. A quick reminder that all the resources and links for today's episode can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you to our foundation partner, Active Management. Active Management are a fitness business coaching company that help clients all over the world. And this month, I have a business tip for you all. Join the Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group and you'll meet like-minded fitness owners and managers from all over the world. All you need to do is go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community. It's a highly engaging community where JT from Active Management shares loads of resources. Things like photos from inside gyms, reasons to exercise, a monthly book club, challenges, and even ideas under $50. It's free and it is an awesome community. Once again, just go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community. Thank you once again for joining me today. Enjoy your week ahead and remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.